What's up, War Room Nation? Welcome to Inside the War Room on War Room Sports TV. I'm one of your hosts, Devin McMillan, and I'm here with my partners, Jimmy
You.
and B. Austin.
Liquid Lucifer reporting for duty.
All right, we're going to give our final thoughts on Super Bowl 47. You know, we know that everybody, including us, we've hit you in the head with Super Bowl coverage. But hey, this is where we end it. So we're going to give our final thoughts and our observations on the Super Bowl, and we'll see you next year. B. Austin, we know that you've had a lot to say since the game ended. So why don't you start us off here and just give us your observations about the game? Do you think the better team won, or do you think the team that was most deserving won? Give us your thoughts.
I think the team that was most deserving definitely won, just due to the discipline and the execution on the part of the Baltimore Ravens. I do not think the more talented, more physical, or more athletic team won. I think that due to some mistakes, due to them, getting caught up in the moment and losing focus, they ended up in a position where, let's face it, it cost them. The fumble by James, the interception by Colin Kaepernick, the penalties, those things. It's kind of like they got in the bright lights and they forgot that they were more physical and more athletic than the Ravens.
Right. Well, I'm gonna take it back to Sunday's pregame show that we did, and I just remember our conversation, and I think the game kind of went exactly like I said it had to go for the Ravens to win. They jumped out to a big lead early, as I thought they would have had to do, because if it was just a game where they had to just go toe-to-toe and punch with the 49ers, I don't think they could have handled that type of pressure. So they did jump out to the early lead. Of course, we already know in Super Bowls that the halftime show is excruciatingly long. It was a little more bearable this time because, Beyonce was shaking what Beyonce shakes. But right after that, you get the kick return by Jacoby Jones, and you kind of think that's the dagger. And then all of a sudden you have this power situation.
And then the Niners owner paid that money to them people.
Yeah, so the power situation, in my opinion, kind of made the game weird, because not only did the commentators on the actual Super Bowl think that this would work in the 49ers' favor, everybody at our Super Bowl party up in the mountains of Virginia were saying the exact same thing. So we kind of thought, the longer this takes, the core of the Ravens team is older than the core of the 49ers team, so we kind of thought it would work in their favor. The break kind of made it weird, you know what I'm saying? Because the first half of the game was controlled. It was one-sided, controlled by one team. After the two big breaks, the second half of the game was one-sided, controlled by one team. So even though you like to see teams making comebacks, this one just didn't seem as exciting to me because of the controversy with the lights. Jimmy, what did you think about that? Did it make the game kind of weird?
It absolutely made the game weird. And not only did I think about it from the standpoint of the Ravens having an older team and in terms of them getting tight, Paul, so to speak, I also think that because they were kicking their ass the way they were, it's like one of them things where they start to think about the championship and the parade while the lights are out. And it's kind of like, start counting the win already. There's a lot of game left to be played. And it showed when they went back out there, the Niners were a step faster. They seemed to want it more. The Ravens looked like they already thought they won the game, and they were just told, like, yo, you got to keep playing.
Yeah, but it kind of seemed like with the two breaks, it kind of seemed like it was two games to me. Like I said, we see in the NFL all the time, a team jumps out, the other team comes back. That's kind of exciting. But I didn't really find this one exciting because it really seemed like they played two games that night.
Yeah, and in terms of like overall thoughts, I think the best team won. What's memorable for me from this Super Bowl is Alicia Keys got a nice bubble. I don't think I'll be buying a Dodge truck anytime. The commercial kind of turned me off from it, and I thought it was horrible. In terms of the commercials overall, there were a couple good ones, but
the farmers. You weren't into the farm?
No, I'm not into the farmers, man. But I did enjoy the Joe Montana stain and the Leon Sandcastle.
So B. Austin, what players on both sides, San Francisco and Baltimore, stood out to you during this game? Good or bad?
Baltimore positively Both their tight ends balled out. Joe Flacco obviously didn't play a great game, but played a very good game. Very solid, delivered. Dude is very cool under pressure. Anquan Bolden has some of the best hands that the National Football League has ever seen. I think he can tear phone books because when the ball gets in his vicinity, he's not dropping anything. Defensively, I thought Paul Kruger
actually dropped one in the Super Bowl, though. I wouldn't say best hands. I say strongest hands.
Strongest hand, yeah. Paul Kruger balled a little bit on the defensive side of the ball. Ed Reed, I don't know whether it's just that he's great or he's lucky or he's just luckily great or greatly lucky. The ball finds Ed Reed, man. The ball finds Ed Reed. That was not him even making a play. Kaepernick overthrew the receiver
Ed Reed. Yeah.
And just threw it to Ed Reed like the ball belongs to Ed Reed. So, he's always Bernard Pollard. I give him a special shout out. Not that he did that much in the Super Bowl, but he was playing with 6 cracked ribs. I thought the other linebackers played well. Ellerby, Suggs was getting held on every play. Ray, my uncle, I'm glad this was your last game, buddy, because matched up one-on-one against Vernon Davis, oh, my good God.
Like we told you, they were going to try to single him out like that in the
pregame. and they did. They didn't get him as much as I would have if I was the Niners, but they got him on 2 plays. Distinctly, I remember one play on Vernon Davis, and then there was another where they ran crossing routes with Crabtree in front of Ray, and it looked like Ray whiffed. But yeah, that was, and then on their side of the ball, Francis M.H. White. I mean, Frank Gore balled 19 carries for like 109 yards. Kaepernick.
I think in the Frank Gore situation, I think they waited too long to use him. I mean, it's kind of understandable because you're down by such a deficit. They probably scrapped the running game altogether until they got close enough.
But you know what, though?
Using them again.
The thing about it is, it wasn't they scrapped it; it wasn't working. If you remember, when he started gashing him, is when the Lodi Nada went out the game. Right. And a lot of people forget about that. He went out the game, and as soon as he went out, they run him right down the middle.
Right.
There's no coincidence.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely not a coincidence. Haloti Ngata is a great player. To me, Vernon Davis stood out on San Francisco's side. We even said in the pregame show that he would have to have a big game for them to have any type of success. What also stood out to me is that Randy Moss didn't do a damn thing.
The greatest receiver ever?
I know you were about to say
he had 2 catches for 40.
Colin Kaepernick. I actually think, for all the, Jimmy and I on the way back from our retreat were listening to Colin Cowherd on the radio, and he seemed to try to blame every single thing that went wrong in the game on Colin Kaepernick. Actually, go the other way on that. I think for a relative rookie quarterback, I say relative because he's really second year, but I really think he played a pretty good game, especially in the second half. That's when all the 49ers played their best. But, he did what he did, and they actually almost came back and probably should have won that game. So I can't knock him for anything that happened. He made the mistake early, but it still wasn't the mistake that a lot of us were waiting for him to make. So I still think, his 10-game run as a starter, in my opinion, he still hasn't made that big mistake that cost his team the game.
Yeah.
I mean, when you lose a game by 3, he made the early mistake. A lot of people can blame it on him, but I don't think he made that mistake that we all expected him to make.
What I saw from Kaepernick was, first of all, mistakes don't really bother him, so it doesn't really get into his psyche much. He still balled. I think that they didn't put the decision making in his hands enough. And what I mean by that was they were still depending on scripted plays coming into the huddle and him running those plays as opposed to allowing him to freelance a little bit, get outside on the edges. They ran that pistol a tad more than, normal for them, but they still ran a lot of passing plays.
And Baltimore showed you the blueprint of what's going to happen to that pistol in the next 2 years. Yeah. They hit Kaepernick a few times. They didn't hit him like they didn't hit him
the way that you or I would have hit him. But yeah, they definitely hit him. I think that I think he still needs to work on his reading. And for those that, don't know what I'm talking about, I mean, he still looks one side of the field, and if the ball's not going to Crabtree, then he's going to scamper. If it's not going to Vernon, and then he's going to scamper. So he doesn't go through a progression of routes. It's all one route. And
he's young. He's from that type of a system. I'll give him a pass on that. It wasn't his fault that Harbaugh put him into these big situations, so I think he did well with what he was given. Let's not make this too long. So let's talk about the MVP.
One thing I do want to mention in terms of the players that impressed me.
A lot of San Francisco fans bitching about calls too.
But hold on though, the best to me.
Run better routes.
And I say this, and people are gonna think I'm joking. Delanie Walker's the best player on the Niners, man. He does it all. And just watching this dude on special teams, offense. I mean, he might have played a couple downs at cornerback too, if I'm not mistaken. Delanie Walker is that dude, man.
Yeah, and shout out to Delanie Walker because he lost his aunt and uncle in a drunk driving car crash after the Super Bowl. So they were there with him at the Super Bowl.
Condolences.
And, they left him there, and that was the last time he ever seen him. So definitely condolences for that. Yeah. Let's talk a minute about the MVP, Joe Flacco. I think pretty much throughout the whole postseason and then the Super Bowl, Joe Flacco has shown us a consistency that was never really there before. But all in all, we say the word consistency, but it's still just a 4-game stretch.
4 games.
It's still just a 4-game stretch. However, it's different when it's the 4 biggest games of your life.
Absolutely. That's what Eli made a career off this.
Right. So we know that Joe Flacco is going to ask for the big bucks. His contract is up. His agent is saying he thinks he should be the highest paid quarterback in the league. Not really sure why he thinks that's the case, but we do know that market value isn't always about exactly what you're worth. Real quick, fellas, what are your thoughts on Joe Flacco? He said he was elite before the season, just like Eli Manning did before he won his second Super Bowl. Where do you guys put Joe Flacco, and what do you think is going to happen from here moving forward with this quarterback?
Well, first let's define elite. For me, elite is making the unusual or tremendous play on a regular basis, and basically being the reason that your team wins. I can say for the last 4 games that he may fit into that, but that's not a large enough sample for me to say he's elite. Just, real quick, yardage wise, regular season, 16 games, 38-17 yard. It's not, it's not bad, but it's certainly not great. 59% completion ratio. That's not great. 46.8 QBR, 89 or 87.9 passer rating. He's middle of the road stat wise. Now I understand the playoffs. The playoff performance was one for the ages. He played lights out. I like his composure. He doesn't get rattled at all. He's always cool under pressure. He's got a cannon for an arm. And I think that the Ravens are poised to transition away from a system that depends on their defense being dominant and getting stops and placing more of that on Joe Flacco's arm. All that being said, I got him about number 10. Number 11, number 10 in the league overall. I break down into quarters, every 8. Top 8 is your elite. Middle 8. Next middle 8 would be very good. Next middle 8 would be average. And bottom middle 8 is just waiting for somebody to come take their job.
Okay, my thoughts on Flacco. I've actually always been a Flacco fan, a little bit of an apologist. People probably don't hear it much from me because, nobody really gave Flacco the business on our show when everybody gets to hear me talk. But living in the Washington, Baltimore area, I do have a lot of conversations about Joe Flacco. And there is a time there where a lot of Baltimore fans have begun to lose faith in him, talk about his consistency and things of that nature. No, I don't think he's in the elite category of quarterbacks, but I think he has every tool needed. And this will be a great jump start to get him into that category. I think I do have him somewhere in my top 10. I always put he and Matt Ryan on the exact same level. I'm not one to have one game just vault you into territory that you don't belong in, but I will say that this playoff run and this Super Bowl has vaulted him ahead of Matt Ryan in my eyes. So, somewhere in the top 10, I'll do a list for our show so we can get those 10.
So right now you're speaking to the Palms, not the POWs, but the Palms, prisoners of the moment.
Yeah, the prisoners of the moment. But everything that he's going to get, everything he's going to demand and probably get in his contract negotiations, I don't argue with that kind of stuff.
20 mil a season.
We know how market value works. And from what he's done, I would say that he earned that. Jimmy.
Yo, I just want to say, in my opinion, when I talk about the elite, I think it's only 3 elite quarterbacks in the entire league. Because I look at the elite as being the top 10% of however many starting quarterbacks are in the league. So the three elite quarterbacks, in my personal opinion, are Aaron Rodgers is number 1, Tom Brady, and Drew Brees. Those are the 3 elite quarterbacks, in my personal opinion. Where does he fit? I say he is in the top 10. I probably wouldn't have him 10. I probably have him higher than 10. Because outside of the 3 elite, I probably would put both Mannings, Roethlisberger, and I don't know who else you can put ahead of him. A lot of people will say Phillip Rivers, but no, I wouldn't put Phillip Rivers ahead of Joe Flacco at this point. So he's somewhere around 7, 8 maybe. So he's definitely a top 10 quarterback.
I'd probably say it was about 4 or 5 elite. Because I'm not going on set percentages. I'm just going on who's good and who's not.
Yeah, I understand that, but you got to understand that I don't think Peyton Manning's elite, and that's for another video. But with that being said,
hater in the house.
I definitely think that he is top 10. There's not too many quarterbacks. I just also find it interesting how Austin said he had 3,800 passing yards. And he was like, that's about average. It's funny how the league is so crazy now in terms of statistics that 3,800 passing yards is average. That's crazy.
3,800 passing yards is Donovan McNabb's career high, damn near.
Yo, he said that's average. You know what I mean? Brush it off. People throwing 5,000 now.
The ultimate average. Is nothing. The ultimate average and mediocre player. Donovan McNabb. There you go.
Joe Flacco had a great run. He did his trip to Disney World, his trip to Letterman. He's on that circuit now, and everything that he's done is well deserved. So shout out to Joe Flacco. Congratulations to the Baltimore Ravens for winning Super Bowl 47. Congratulations
shout out to TD Rakes for going out on top.
Yeah, shout out to Ray. Shout out to my man, my personal favorite, Ed Reed, who at this point I kind of hope that he retires now since he can just walk out on top.
2 tickets to paradise.
But you guys know the drill. War Room Sports TV. There it is again. Make sure you subscribe to our videos. Make sure you like the videos. Comment on the videos because we will comment back. Check us out. WarRoomSports.com. One-stop shop for everything you need. War Room. This has been another episode of Inside the War Room. Remember, don't accept mediocrity and be steadfast in the war against ignorance. We out of here.
Kuwait is the war room with 5 nights at the round table. 5 Philly guys diversified and educated.